a challenging task, very difficult to implement, impossible to achieve, a Herculean task fulfilled under the guidance and 24/7 working by Latika Singh, head of MCA department, and his colleagues in the department of MCA. Today, I am feeling very proud to have this program launched, the international webinar. I take this opportunity to congratulate the head of MCA department, Latika Singh, and his team for fulfilling this challenging task of organizing the international webinar. It is a matter of delight and great pleasure to know that there was an overwhelming response from all over the globe. I'm sorry. Many delegates from the JSS Women's College, Saraswatipuram, Mysuru, and delegates from Arts, Science and Commerce Degree College, JSS Degree College at Ooty Road, Mysore, and many officials from the JSS Pvt Ltd have joined for this webinar. I extend them hearty welcome. And delegates from universities outside the country have also joined for this. Their response was overwhelming, and as many as 602 submitted their registration. We could not accommodate more than 500 delegates under the licensing that we have for the Zoom, and we have taken on board 500 delegates from across the country and globally. This has been a mega event, international webinar, inviting the delegates from all over the country and globe. Has been a really landmark achievement and a matter of great satisfaction for all of us. I take this opportunity to congratulate the HOD and the team of faculty in the Department of MCA, and also would like to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Unnakumar Pathakji, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, Technical University, Lucknow, our Executive Secretary, Honorable Dr. C.G. Betsurmatji, Executive Secretary of JSS Pvt Ltd, and our advisor, who was my teacher at SJC Mysuru, Sri Jachamarajan College of Engineering, Mysuru, my teacher and mentor, Professor M.S. Dhananjayaji, advisor, Technical Education Division, JSS Pvt Ltd, Mysuru, and our director, Technical Education Division, Dr. C. Ranganathayaji, Academic Administration, Project Development, Planning and Development of Technical Education Division. And I thank all my colleagues here, CEO Commodore B.K. Gupta ji, Accounts Officer Manoj Kumar, our Registrar Dr. C.S.S. Siddhaya Shirurji, Dean Academics Dr. Jagdish, all my HODs, my team of HODs and faculty members here for their cooperation and support. And our liaison officer Rajanna, every one of them, I thank them for cooperating, for working day and night for making this event a great success. It's a moment of pride for me in this time of the difficult, dire situation that we are going through because of the outbreak of the COVID-19. During these challenging times, a webinar of this topic on this topic has been planned, and today we are launching it. It's a moment of great pride for me, and I congratulate every one of them, and I wish everybody good health and safety during these difficult times. And I take this opportunity to welcome I would like to welcome our resource persons, Dr. Himanshu Garg, respiratory and sleep physician, Royal Darwin Hospital, Darwin, Australia. Our resource person Dr. Latika Singh, professor, School of Engineering and Technology, Ansal University, Gurugram, and Dr. Sunayana Jain, associate professor, operations, management, Institute of Management Studies, IMS, Ghaziabad. Mr. Laxman Yadav, Ruby on Rails developer, Commeasure Solutions, India Pvt Ltd. Mr. Lokendra Singh, founder, Jain Group India, Delhi, Salesforce and Salesforce IoT cloud platform. I extend hearty welcome to all of them, all the experts, the resource persons, and I once again extend warm welcome to all the delegates from across the country and from the globe on this platform, and wish this event a great success. And I'm confident with the blessings and grace of His Holiness Mahaswamiji, we'll be able to get a great success and achieve great milestones with regard to this event, and in the future many more events that we are planning and that are there in the pipeline. I wish this event a great success and thank all the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share my views on this occasion. Thank you very much. Over to Vikas Singhal ji.
Thank you, sir. I request now Hanuman Rao to proceed for the further proceedings.
Thank you, Principal Sir, for your warm welcome. It was very humble words for our gathering. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Now, I welcome our conveyor, Mr. Latika Singh, HOD of Department of Applications, JSS Academy of Technical Education, Noida, to say a few words.
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you, my coordinator, Mr. Hanuman Rao ji. With the blessings of our Holiness Jagat Guru Shri Shiratri Shira Deshikendra Mahaswami ji, the 25th Pontiff of Mutt, Mysuru, our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Vinay Kumar Pathak ji, from Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Technical University, Lucknow, our respected Principal, Sir, Dr. Gurulingappa M. Patil ji, our Chief Administrative Officer, Commander D.K. Gupta sir ji, Dean Academics, Dr. R.S. Jagdish sir ji, our Registrar, Dr. Shirur sir, our Accounts Officer, Shri sir ji. I am thankful to all our experts who were quite generous for giving the, you can say, approval to join us within a very short span of time. Day one, the participants, day one will be starting with a very great honor with our, you can say, expert from Australia, who is a very, you can say, highly qualified in respiratory and sleep physician. And currently working in one of the government hospital at Australia. And he'll be delivering, you can say, lecture for which everybody is very quiet. As he's in the government hospital, closely with the patients of COVID-19, will be very helpful in getting the latest updates from knowledge. And also he'll be updating us what can be the impact on the sleep that he has a very great, you can say, knowledge, and you can say highly, he has been working on it from quite large time. quite amount of time. And apart from that, you can say after the same expert, we'll be having some questionnaire which has been floated by our you can say coordinators, as well as we'll be having few questions in our chat box which we'll be combining and combining and getting out it with the expert. But I will be sorry in a case if I do not get up to all questions, and it won't be possible to take up in a very short span of time, as our next you can say expert, Laxman Yadav, and he is you can say I can announce this and tell everyone over here that he is our ex-student of our JSS Academy of Technical Education Noida, who has been working on you can say exclusive platform of Ruby on Rails (ROR). And he is a very great developer on various platforms that he'll be discussing and can be helpful or is helpful in developing your own you can say blogs and how to go about it. And on the second day, we'll be coming up with Dr. Latika Singh, a professor in the School of Engineering and Technology, Ansal University, Gurugram, India. And he is a speech feature analysis to understand neuro development disorders will be her topic of it, followed by our Lokendra Singh. He is again, I am proudly announcing that he is our first batch BTech pass out from JSS Academy of Technical Education, Noida, very senior in Microsoft working in Gurugram. And he'll be delivering a very great lecture on how to become an entrepreneur, what is the importance of it, and what are the you can say, difficulties that you can overcome in becoming of that. As he's you can say accessing a great NGO also on entrepreneurship. Third day followed by that, our Dr. Sunayana Jain, an associate professor who is in operations management in working in Institute of Management Studies, that is IMS Ghaziabad in Lalkua. He'll be delivering on qualitative research work, which will be definitely, she is a great enthusiastic expert in how to write the, you can say, different areas of paper presentations, how to proceed in getting the approval from different, you can say, organizations. We'll be discussing on that. And followed by again our Laxman Yadav will be floating and hands-on on blog writing. And again, he'll be delivering on it, how to go about it in delivering and motivating the, you can say, on blog writing. I also thank my team members without whom this event would not have taken this shape, which has come across more than 600 participants has filled our form. But as there's a restriction, as I already told you, of 500 participants of a license, will not be able to access more than that. And definitely we'll be forwarding the mails and heartily apologize. And we'll be taking first priority in our next event to all those people. Thank you very much to all the participants. I also thank in my absentia my friends and my colleagues who have worked for me as a backbone in getting the participants this and forwarding my, you can say, brochures and every, you can say, milestone that has come across. And most importantly, I am thanking all my participants at the end who have joined us today to make this event a historic event. And why historic has already been discussed, very great and star mark, you can say, points with our chief convener, our principal, Dr. Gurugram Patil Sarji. I already told you that it's really a great event, and we have received a very amount of participants. It took a lot of time for us, you can say, to finally schedule for those participants and get into this, you can say, format. And initially, as I have already, my coordinators have spoken that what are the hurdles that we have faced. Well, again, at the end, to our respected principal, who is a tiresome and you can say a stone to us, which can break all the, you can say, difficulties that come across to us in giving the shape to any type of event in the you can say, at any, you can say, national, international level. I'm very thankful to him and the entire management for all the tireless support that has been extended for the department in day and night approach. I thank you everyone. I hope everyone will respect and acknowledge our work. Thank you so much. I take over to Mr. Hanuman Rao, our coordinator, to proceed for the further, you can say, proceedings of this event. Mr. Hanuman Rao, Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir, for giving very detailed insight of the webinar. Now, I welcome our coordinator, Ms. Shivani Dubey, to introduce our experts.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's international webinar. I am Shivani Dubey, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Applications, JSS ATE, Noida. Today we have our first presenter, Dr. Himanshu Garg. Welcome, sir. His topic is Update on COVID-19 and its impact on sleep. Dr. Himanshu Garg has done MBBS from Dr. S.N. Medical College, Jodhpur, India in October 1998. He has done 3 years post-graduation in respiratory medicine from SMS Medical College, Jaipur, India in June 2003 to obtain MD. He has done fellowship in respiratory and sleep medicine at the Western Hospital, Melbourne, Australia in 2007. He has accredited fellowship by American College of Chest Physician, FCCP. He has also been American Board certified in behavioral sleep medicine in June 2008 to obtain ABSM, one of only few people outside of North America. He is also certified by the American Board of Sleep Medicine to obtain RST in 2012. And last, he has been awarded as the Best Research Award for Tuberculosis 2002 jointly by National Cause. Welcome you, sir. For all the participants, if you have any questions during the presentation, please type into the chat box in your Zoom control panel. We will take your questions at the end of the presentation. So now, without further ado, I request to Dr. Himanshu to take a virtual mic and highlight his subject matter. Sir, please.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dr. Saab, we can hear you, Dr. Saab.
Okay, and am I can I see? Can you run my presentation?
I'm sharing the presentation, sir.
Okay. So, members of the management of JSS, the promoters of the organization, the members of faculty, dear delegates and students, it's my pleasure, absolute pleasure to join you today and give you an update from another part of the world. And I must thank Mr. Singhal to have kind of convinced me to be partnering with you and then sharing. So I think the COVID epidemic has also brought in some opportunities, like I'm talking to you from my home. These technologies, I think, have existed and for long, but I think we're getting more familiar with these and we are getting more used to it. I think it is a good time for having good technical skills. I'm sure this is an area, even in medicine, I think we are now, getting familiar with. So with that, I thought I'll just give you, and I'm sure all of us, the COVID epidemic has made us experts, all of us. Even if we, ask us a child, he'll know what coronavirus is. He'll probably know some statistics. He'll know a few things about it. So there is nothing much more. I mean, we can add. But I thought I'll share with you a global perspective of where we are with the COVID epidemic, and also, my passion area, which is sleep medicine, as to what its impact is and likely to be. So just share you some thoughts here. I'm not a research scholar or anything, but I thought I'll just share my thoughts with you. And I must also tell you, some of the statistics that I'm going to share are from the weekend, and that's when I had the time to do the presentation, which is about 3 days old. 3 days in the COVID epidemic is a long time. You would have seen that things change very fast in this epidemic. So excuse me for that if you find the stats a little old, but they are changing fast. So next slide, please. We know that this is a once in a lifetime. It is almost like before and after Christ. I hope we don't see such big catastrophes in our lifetime, and most of us haven't so far. And so therefore it will be in many ways, and some of the youngsters who are looking at with anxiety, this is a one in sort of a lifetime epidemic, which will define things as a watershed moment before and after. There'll be things. But having said that, it is just one of the many infectious epidemics that we have seen, at least in the recent past. The other epidemics which have also been infective have been from influenza. We almost see like an yearly epidemic or a pandemic from influenza. In the earlier years, we would have a lot of epidemics from plague, MERS. The only real, but all of them have been sort of very quickly contained. The Ebola epidemic, for example, in Africa, the MERS epidemic. The only comparative event, I think, for the current is the Spanish flu. And I'm sure all of you would have heard about it. It was a big influenza epidemic which lasted from 1918 to 1919. And also, if you think about economically, the only sort of comparison I could find was of the Greater Depression, which was a very strong economic impact. It pretty much involved everyone around that time. And this pandemic is nowhere over. We are still learning. There is, I think, let's see how things play out. Next slide. So just going on to the coronavirus, I'm sure you've heard about the WHO proceedings which have happened in the last few hours, looking at what the origin of coronavirus is. For the time being, we know for sure it was a wet market of Wuhan, or a lab in Wuhan where it all started. Coronaviruses are very common in the wild, and we know that the bats are the reservoirs for it. But through a species, and that is not clear, probably a pangolin, there was a transmission to humans, and then that led to a human-to-human transmission. That is how this whole new thing, or a new epidemic. So coronavirus is a big family of viruses. This is the beta coronavirus, which we are experiencing currently, and we also have the alpha, gamma. We don't really know if there is any human transmission, but we know it's the alpha, and now it's the beta which has come to the humans. Next slide. Yeah, so I think there is a lot of work which is going on in genetic sequencing to try and determine well the origins of it, but we know that certain things for sure, that it has come from bats, and it is now rapidly spreading amongst the human population. Next slide. So just to draw some comparisons as to where things are, we know it has killed about 3 million or 300,000 people already, and the numbers are still growing, and the infectivity is high. There are only a few handful of countries, I think, which are left, have not been involved with the coronavirus. It has impacted pretty much all the globe. But just to give you a perspective, the mortality, I know it's not a number which you can say with certainty. What is the death rate or mortality of this? We know it is anywhere between 2 to 5% generally, depending on, of course, certain areas and certain countries have had. And if you were to compare it with the SARS epidemic about 10 years back, I'm sure some of you would have heard about it. It was 10%, the mortality with the MERS epidemic, which is the Middle East respiratory, another coronavirus syndrome which happened in the Middle East, was quickly contained, 34%. the swine flu, the H1N1 epidemic is about 0.02%. So it is very common. It is impacting the whole world. It has very high infectivity, but the mortality it's not one of the highest mortality infectious disease that we know of. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so just to give you a comparison is to SARS-1, and now I'm sure all of you know that also the coronavirus epidemic is also now started to be called a SARS-2 epidemic. So the regions were very similar. It was in China that both these viruses emerged. It started from say 2002, but remember SARS epidemic was quickly controlled between November 2002 to July 2003. We'll have to look at why this could not be done this time, and some of it, and therefore the controversy around why this was not controlled and what it took. The city of Wuhan, if you know, was in the middle of China, and when this epidemic actually became and came before, it was the Lunar New Year, and most of the flights to China would pass through Wuhan, and therefore a lot of people were leaving or coming into that city at that point. And that's the reason I think that it very quickly spread, and that it's one of the highest. Although, as I showed you, the mortality is not the highest, but yes, it very, very quickly spread. So very similar things. So as you would see, about total patient died in the SARS-1 epidemic is 776, which looks like peanuts to what we have be experiencing. It in terms of symptoms, it has more malaise and myalgia. This doesn't have much, and lesser symptoms, much lesser symptoms. Yes, there are certain people who develop pneumonias and respiratory failures, but more often than not, some cough and some often there are no symptoms. Next slide. So what are the symptoms of COVID-19? All of you have heard about it: fever, cough, fatigue, sputum production, myalgia, or some degree of not feeling well, not as pronounced as it was in SARS, chills, nausea, vomiting, and loss of nasal sense. That is also one of the symptoms. But what is very striking about this virus is the next slide, is that there are 80 to 85% of patients have no symptoms at all, and therefore that is the problem that I think. So if you couple that with a very high infectivity rate, I think that's where it has created that havoc, where you have about 80 to 85% people who just don't know, who are otherwise healthy, especially in the healthy population, younger population, where often it does not manifest any symptoms, and they continue to work, do what they're doing, meet people, and continue to be what are they called as super spreaders, or one person has been known to infect up to 200, 300 people over a period of time, and that's because they've never experienced any symptoms, and therefore in the initial time we were a little foxed by that. Most of the regulatory authorities, even in Australia, were only testing that if you have symptoms, if you have history of travel, and we missed out on a bunch of these patients who have never manifested any symptoms, and it took us a while to understand that this is actually can present quite commonly like that, and therefore it is important to recognize that as well. Next slide. So this is how, this is a journey of two patients from Wuhan, patient W1 and W2, and then they met somebody in a church, and that's how a cluster was formed. You can see here very clearly that this is a true journey of two patients who met up the primary case, and this is a study out of Singapore. They've looked at, and I think with their population, they're able to do very good cluster testing and contact tracing. And they've been, so this is how typically the clusters are formed around this virus, and that creates a problem, but also gives us an opportunity to contact trace them backwards, and therefore the attempts to make sure that we get a good contact tracing policy and tools to do it. Next slide. So just a little bit about, I think, as I said, the only comparative event about was the Spanish flu, which which actually did not start in Spain, for a strange reason. So Spain was not that involved in World War I, as I understand, and therefore they had a very independent press. But the rest of the regions, as we can still see in 100 years down the line, I don't know how free the press is to report these, but so it was only the Spanish press which was reporting on this flu, and therefore it was called the Spanish flu. But there are controversies as to where it really originated, whether it was France and whether it was US. But it was a very large H1N1 influenza epidemic. It infected about 500 million people, which was about a third of world's population at that time. And that the death toll was anywhere between, we don't really have a good handle on, but at least 17 million people, and up to a maximum of 50 million people. So the death toll, as you know, with the COVID is around 300,000 people so far. Maybe we'll get to about 500,000 is what we think. So again, the world has experienced a big epidemic, but that was about 100 years back. Next slide. So this is a picture from, very common, from about 100 years old, where you could see that some of the places of common gatherings and stadiums were converted into the quarantine or treatment facilities. But just, I put the picture, and if you look at some of these pictures, which are now, we're seeing the Kotla Maidan and the other areas, which are going to look similar, and some are looking similar. So although we might think that as science has advanced in the last 100 years to a larger degree, but if we were to look at some of these quarantine facilities, which may not look too different in the 100 years of advancement of our overall civilization. Next slide. So this was the age sort of distribution of the Spanish flu. I'm just using this as a comparative tool, and you can see that there was the largest group in a way, of course, was as you age older, and the older you get, you had higher death rate. But also there was a big spike in the, say, 25 to 34-year-old, which is what we are not seeing, fortunately, with the COVID epidemic. So this was the other big problem with the Spanish flu, where we saw a lot of productive young age group, the bread earners, getting very strongly impacted at that time. Next slide. So this is just an age distribution. All of us are aware of it, of COVID-19. We know the older you are, and you higher the mortality rate. Pretty much a very linear relationship in terms of mortality. Very few kids have, there have been some reports from New York whether they have Kawasaki-like disease, which is just sort of a very rare disease otherwise to have, whether, but that's not been reported from anywhere else in the world, and we're not sure. But I think the consensus in the field is that it doesn't impact the kids, although there is some suspicion that they could be carriers, but and therefore Australia did not, in the state that I am in, I think we had closure of schools for about a week, and the schools have pretty much been open, although there are lockdowns. But looking at this statistics, the governments in Australia, the different state governments have been very sort of proactive and have kept open the schools throughout, with the view of making sure, and what they thought was to make sure the parents are able to go and work, and they do not feel that they have to look after kids, and that was one of the rationales that they use. Next slide. So from a time frame, now that was the age distribution. These were the three waves as we talk about in Spanish flu. Again, I'm using these as to give you some perspective as to how to think about a pandemic, as to what we think the policymakers may be looking at in terms of making these decisions. So you see the second wave, and we see a lot of things about, we're still not over with the first wave with the COVID in most countries, but it was in the Spanish flu, the second wave, which killed most of the people, and a bit about third wave. The first wave was actually well controlled, So this is, I think, the fear in the policymakers in different regulatory agencies. Okay, you may control it, you put the lockdowns, you get it down, but if you experience a second wave, that may come to haunt us. And that is, we've seen some second waves in some countries like Japan and South Korea, who were very active in controlling it initially, but they got a big spurt in cases eventually. But that was, I think, for still not, they haven't seen as many deaths. Am I audible? I think somebody suggested.
Yeah, we can hear you very in a good voice.
Okay.
Maybe the network problem can be there at their end.
Okay, so fine. So this is, I think, what is haunting and still keeping people reserved, although, next slide, please. So this is what the curves of COVID overall, if I were to give you the case numbers and the overall curves for deaths, and this is still the first spike. We've still not, from a global perspective, these are global numbers. I'm not talking here about any country in specific. This is where the curves both of total number of cases, and this is just to go back to the Spanish flu curves and the curves that we are still seeing for COVID. Next slide. So this is the total number of cases. We've now crossed more than 4 million, 4.5 million total number of cases. You see the spurt that we see from March 21. So somehow from that magic sort of number, and that's the time we started seeing these cases in India, in Australia. I think that's where it really took off, and you still continue to see that linear sort of acceleration of that curve throughout. No matter what Donald Trump tells us or whosoever, but this is the reality in terms of epidemics that we see currently in terms of absolute number of cases. Next slide. So if I were to break those cases into the numbers, again, these are about 3 days old. So excuse me for that. India, we know, has crossed 100,000 today. It is more than, a bit more than 100,000. But still a big gap where United States and the countries in Europe stands. We'll have to, of course, this is just the total number of cases. I've not accounted for the population density in any way as a factor in that, but just the total, just to give you a picture of where the total number of cases stand. There are going to be, of course, different sort of parameters that define it. For example, the testing rates. If certain countries, Indonesia, for example, has very low testing rates, will obviously have very few cases, and therefore they continue to have very stringent testing criteria as to who they will test. And so different factors contribute to the case numbers, but still give you an idea where things are heading. And only today, Donald Trump said this is a badge of honor. I'm not sure if you've heard the news. He was questioned as to why the US has highest number of cases. He said that's a testimony of our healthcare system. I know most of us may not agree with that, but his statement was, this is what I think is a badge of honor for us. So different ways of looking at the same thing. Next slide. Okay, sorry for this is a very busy slide. This is just again a comparison as to where, which, and how. Now, if you look through this graphs, you can see the case doubling rates, which is every 2 days, every 3 days, every day, every 5 days, every 10 days. Now, I'm sure you've heard about the different regulatory authorities telling us that where they want is to make sure that the 10 is a critical number. We want the doubling rate to be more than 10. And we had, for some time, I understand, in India, we were below, greater than 10, but I don't think we are any longer. So we are anywhere between 5 and 10 days. This is the cases doubling rate. That tells us what the rate of growth is. Remember, this is an exponential disease. It is, I showed you the cluster picture where you get this exponential growth. But if we know for sure, if you have it less than 10 days, you're in a decent. So that's what Australia achieved very quickly. Again, different factors, very low density of population, and therefore they had a lot of advantages versus some of the advantages that we have. So just to give you more clarity on this particular picture, next slide. Yeah, so this is just the same graph. Now, sort of highlighted that, we saw the US curve go very sharply up in terms of the doubling rate and the absolute numbers, and then starting to bend and come towards the between 5 to 10 days. And that's the other, the Australia curve. So that's where we would want the curve to come down into the every 10 days figure eventually. But most of the countries fortunately are heading there, but have some days, some time to go before we achieve that parameter. Next slide. So this is about the deaths. Again, a very linear graph, which is over 300,000 deaths already. I'm sure we'll get to 500,000 deaths, but still, as I said, it is much lower than the greatest epidemic that we've seen of the Spanish flu. So this is again a simple overall in global death rate. We'll try and break it down for you. Next slide. So the one thing that we know for deaths in this disease is we know that age predisposition is very linear, which means the higher your age, the higher your mortality. But it also, we very quickly were able to figure out the cardiovascular disease, the diabetes, the hypertension, and some of these patients have a much higher death rate versus the other. And that's why some of the countries, which had a very low, at least in the healthcare arena, countries like Singapore, even Australia. So one of the first things that they did was to make sure all the healthcare manpower that they had, they made a profile, age and disease profile. And then they calculated the risk, and depending on the risk, they used the manpower to the who's going to be the frontline worker versus not. And therefore they were able to get onto a very low death rate for their healthcare professionals. So this is an information I think many countries used very wisely to make sure that their healthcare workers were protected. Next slide. So again, this is what previous slide, please. Previous slide, yeah. This is again, I think, coming back to a similar slide as I was showing you the case numbers. So death doubling rate every 2 days, every 3 days, every 5 days. This is again a curve that we want to see bend. In terms of we've seen the US now, yes, touching a very high, but then eventually starting to move towards. So some of the countries which are there in that comfort zone every 10 days, which is Japan, South Korea, Australia, Taiwan. So we know that they have done a good job, is where they are in this safe zone, which is greater than every 10 days. Next slide. So just again, clearing up the next slide, please. Yeah. So just to give you, that's where we are. I think where we would want to be is still a long distance to go, but most countries are showing some promise as to where things are heading. But overall, it is a linear growth curve still. It's just where we are. Next slide. Yeah. So this is the overall, it shows the rolling average, which is, limited testing can be a challenge. This is where we would want things to be. This is the real bent of curve that we have seen with South Korea, with Denmark. And we've still not bent the curve. United States, as you would see on the top, is it's got onto the top with a very sort of sharp upswing, but starting to bend the curve, the shape of the curve. And I'm sure all of you are science students, and you can decipher very well. And you see the Italy curve, you see the United Kingdom curve, all going up, but then finally touching a high and starting to move downwards. I don't think we've got there in India yet. Germany's got there, and some countries have really had remarkable success with that curve, which is basically attributes to how your death rates are going in South Korea, Denmark. So some of those countries have done really a good mark. So things are yeah. Next slide. So this is just another, if you were to put up a global map, look at the deaths per million people. We know it started off in the Asia, then went on to Europe, and then finally moved on to the North America. So that's where most of the deaths in absolute numbers are situated. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. So this is an important graph. I hope it's all showing up. These are the numbers which tells us about the case fatality rate. If 100 people have it, how many of are at risk of dying? In the beginning, we have, I think the overall what we've understood is anything between say 2 to 5%. But certain countries, Italy, France, for some reasons have experienced a very high death rate, about 15%. There are countries who have reported very high death rates. But most are in the range of say 0 to 5% mortality, which is about, I think, what is right. Next slide. Okay, so case fatality is a very important parameter that I think all the regulatory authorities around the world are looking at, and that's for a reason. If you have, and I think there is a degree of underestimation of cases, which means that if you continue to sort of not test asymptomatic patients, you will have lower number of case rates, and therefore in some ways your case fatality will be higher. Versus if you test everyone and if you have higher number of cases, your case mortality rate will reflect as lower. So different ways of looking at it. We're also trying to understand why countries like Italy had such a high death rate or mortality rate. Probably they have a much aging population. Therefore, they were able to not control it and not prevent those deaths. So we're still learning. As I said, this epidemic is evolving, and we're trying to learn about why is so much variation, as I showed you in the previous graph, about the fatality. Certain areas it is very fatal. New York, it was high. In Lombardy, it was high, but definitely not in some of the Southeast Asian regions. And probably the age demographics is what is. Also, the response to the epidemic, and we've seen many leaders around the world, be it Brazil, the president of Brazil dismissed it. Russia initially completely dismissed it. They were slow to act. The messaging from the leaders was that, it's nothing really to worry about. And therefore they could have prevented, I think, a large amount of deaths, but, they could not. And we'll also, I think it's important to think about the concept of herd immunity that the Swedish tried. And, I've been asked whether that was the best thing to do and not think about the lockdown as one of the strategies. I think we're still learning about the Swedish model. The mortality rate there is increasing, whereas most of the Europe is decreasing. So we don't know whether that concept of herd immunity, which also the UK tried in the initial few days or few weeks, didn't actually, so there was some degree of lockdown or social distancing which was needed to be mandated. We know there is important sort of contribution from the existing healthcare infrastructure. You can't fight a battle without an army. If you don't, you can't build an army overnight. That was exactly what I think it was in many ways the pandemic showed us. When I joined this hospital in Australia, not many months back, I was in India, but I saw a big sort of space which was given to infectious diseases. In this part of the world, the infectious diseases, or the CDC, Center for Disease Control, I was really amazed as to why they have so many numbers and so many people working in that. But when the pandemic hit, they were on their feet in the first few hours, not even days. And in this state we had zero mortality. Nobody died in this Northern Territory in Australia, and there were only 30-40 cases very quickly. But that was, I think, a testimony to the existing healthcare infrastructure. They had in every district infectious disease experts which were already existing. Climatic conditions is query, and I put it query because we, as respiratory physicians, we've been dealing with infections for a long time, and we've always seen a decrease in summer seasons and much higher increase in the winter. So we all assume that we're going to see that in the summer, but has not so far completely played out. Let's see whether it's, of course, the political environment makes a lot of difference. Whether having a strong government decreases the likelihood of the pandemic gaining ground. One can, I think, debate about it. Next slide. So just a slide that I really wanted to bring up, and that's been fascinating, is the story of Vietnam, a Southeast Asian nation not too far from us, and that continues to fascinate. I mean, many countries in the initial days, they claimed that they have succeeded and there are no cases. Even North Korea says so, but somehow I think this story stands out. Vietnam, 300 cases. There's been some increase in the last few days, but 0 deaths. It's got about 10 million to, I think, 15 million people, and they continue to not have an epidemic. They had not a serious lockdown, and I don't know what has happened, but these are again things to study, and as they will fan out as to why certain countries did so well in dealing with it. Whether it was just they're dealing with it, climatic conditions, age demographics, mutation of the virus, what has led to this, but I think it's important to understand these differences. Next slide. Yeah, so the testing, all the governments around the world are trying to get higher test rates, and as I showed you why it is important. Just going after the symptoms, we're going to miss out a lot of these patients. Yes, they may not die, but they may become spreaders, and then eventually spread it to people who are vulnerable. So that is the fear, and therefore the testing rates are high, and India is down there, less than 10 per 1,000 people. We have a huge population, informal sector, but there is a long way to go in terms of picking up testing rates, and that's, if that's what India wants to do. Next slide. Yeah, so in terms of the recognition of the stringency of the government's action, it has been classified from 0 to 100 based on how responsive the government was, how strictly it messaging, response strategy, contact tracing. So it looked at a number of parameters. Within, there's no doubt that India has been quite strict, quite rigid, and some people may believe a bit too much to sort of try and control this epidemic in the early phase at least. Next slide. So what has been the learning so far from the epidemiology of COVID? We've certainly learned that the disease spreads in clusters. We know that it needs a testing and containment strategy is the important thing. We know because of the density of population and other factors that urban predominance around the world, we know that it does impact people with pre-existing disease status. We don't have that in India, the elderly homes, which are called nursing homes here, and somehow it is a disaster. If you have one patient of nursing home having it, it ends up killing a lot of those patients around the world. New York nursing homes, Italy nursing homes were a disaster. People deserted those nursing homes fearing death, and the maximum number of deaths happened in these elderly living clusters. There has also been a clustering of meat processing areas, and I'm not sure whether it is just the working environment or it is to do with the nature of the job that they do. But in Melbourne, for example, we had a big abattoir which was impacted, and their staff got impacted, and so many stories around meat processing unit in the US and the Western world. I'm sure all of us have heard about the cruise ships in the initial few. They were the reasons of major mortality in Australia, the Diamond Princess, the Ruby Princess, these two ships. And if you leave out these two clusters from these cruise ships, Australia would have literally had almost nil mortality. I don't want to talk about religious congregations. We all have, I think, all very well aware of the consequences of that. And this is not only, I think, focused or localized to India. This has been also a global phenomenon. We also are, I think, looking at why is it certain cities around the world are so sort of impacted versus the other. For example, New York, we have Chicago, we have some big cities around the US which did not bear the brunt, whether again the clustering. So density of population, but we have very similar cities around the world. Mumbai, we know, has its own problems, but yes, there are issues that I think we are learning about the disease. Next slide. So there is a global race, we know, global race where not only the governments, the pharmaceutical industry wants to come up with a treatment. We heard from Donald Trump that he still believes in the hydroxychloroquine, which people had dismissed more as a treatment. Whether there is a trial which has been a big trial of hydroxychloroquine in the healthcare workers, which has just kicked off today in Australia, where they're looking at more from a preventive angle, whether that is something that can prevent rather than cure, and it seems to be that it is showing some promise. So about 4,000 healthcare workers are going to be recruited in this trial to try and see if this can be a very good preventive. The earlier drug, the drug that they use for Ebola and MERS, the remdesivir, has shown some promise, and more work is going on. Multiple companies are working on vaccines, but none of that is something that is there on the, we don't know which one will actually eventually break through, and it is a global race and everyone wants to win it. But we must be mindful that, for example, in HIV, we could never make a vaccine. So there are diseases that you don't always end up having a vaccine. It is not a given. So what is happening is people are taking risks and the governments are pouring in money. So if the trials are going on, they're subsequently also going into industrial production in the hope if the data meets the criteria, the vaccine will be ready. So that's the amount of risk that people are taking because of the similarity of the SARS. So some of the work that they did with SARS was what is being used right now. Next slide. So again, I'm not in India, not for the last few months, but I'm deeply connected to place and I follow it. I think some of the challenges that we have in India are that we have an informal economy, which is prone to fast and deep impact. All of us will agree with that. We have certain areas in the country which have very high population density, where social distancing and things like that become almost impossible, like Dharavi in Mumbai, which is struggling. We also have people, because of the informal economy, they cannot be supported. There is no direct way of supporting them, and therefore people need to survive, and they need to survive, they need to work. What is very unique is also this mass migration of labor towards hometowns, again, not seen across the world. I think I don't see another phenomena which can be compared. So it also, I think, in a way is a learning for the country, where we can see within country, there's been so much migration. So what's going to be the impact of this migration towards control of the pandemic? I think time will tell. We also have a challenge where 70% of the healthcare we know is administered with the private sector, and how does it then, therefore, who will pay for if somebody gets sick? There's been a lot of work by the government trying to address and make sure, but I'm sure that it was sub-adequate. And the reason was that most of the healthcare was provided by the private sector. We've always had a very small part of GDP for many decades, which was given to healthcare, and therefore we can see the results now. We have a lower doctor to population ratio and a dearth of IC beds, and we've been slower in getting on with indigenous kits, but now I understand they'll be ready by this month. Next slide. Next slide, please. Yeah. So, but yes, there are certain advantages, which is what we know is that younger demographics, we have much younger demographics than most of the developed world or Europe or US. We also know that the case fatality rate has been low. Now, I'm sure all of you will agree with me, the actual number of cases are much higher than the cases. Therefore, the deaths that we are seeing may also be underreported to some extent, but the case fatality would also not be that high if you were to account for all those cases. So my feeling is it's anywhere between around 3%, anywhere a bit higher than 2, anywhere between 2 to 3. Believe it or not, we have a large pool of community health workers, or the ASHA workers, or the Anganwadi workers, which are the foot soldiers, and I understand many of them have not been paid and they're having the problems. But there have been excellent tools to collect data to do some of those work in very difficult circumstances. There have been recent expansion in public healthcare system, including the 22 all India institutes, which are all on the anvil. Will take their time, but there has been at least some push in the last few years to build the public health infrastructure, which has come handy in this dealing with this. Whether warmer climate is going to protect us, I'm not sure. I thought so, but so far it doesn't seem to be a big factor. Time will tell. We have a very established pharmaceutical sector, so whenever we know that this drug is going to act or this vaccine is showing promise, we can be assured that it will be with us in no time. We have a very established and accomplished pharmaceutical sector, when therefore almost called a pharmacy of the world. So we all know that, and that's, I think, quite reassuring. Next slide. So the way forward, I think, for the country should be to increase the testing, to contact tracing. So there is a lot of emphasis on, and I think you're from technical background, you know how it works, and uses the Bluetooth technology and give you. There are obviously concerns around data privacy as to what intrusion and what is the safety, can it be exploited, your personal data. I understand those concerns, but from a healthcare perspective or an epidemiological perspective, I think it's important to have that tool in place. We are also on the way to make accurate and inexpensive testing kits. If the current expense to test 1 billion people is almost impossible unless we have things which we can do more cheaply. I don't think there's. Again, I think so far we've had a bottom-up approach, which we have had a top-down approach where people are dictating from center, and sometimes they not in line with the ground realities. I think if you were to change the whole, and that's why I thought the Indian sort of regulatory environment is where there are block level things and the village level people. I'm sure that this will turn down, and once that's done, I think we'll have a better handle on things. Designated containment and quarantine zones, I think these are being done well. Special protection of vulnerable and elderly disease, there's been some focus on that. And an active participation in the global vaccine development efforts, again, is something that is, I think we can probably say has been ongoing. So that's pretty much what I had to share and update. I thought I'd give you a perspective, and many of these things you would have heard over the TV channel discussions, and I thought I'll share my perspective. I'll just move on to the second part of what I wanted to say. Yeah, before as we just next slide before I end, I'd say whether this is going to be new normal. Whether social, I assume so. There is going to be a new normal, but to what extent we'll go back, we're not sure. Whether social, I assume there will be some degree of social distancing that will become part of our lives. We are, as healthcare professionals, also happy that the government is now looking to build a strong healthcare infrastructure. There is finally a push. We know from a business angle, there'll be a lot of consolidation. Some of the smaller players may disappear forever. There'll be closures, there'll be emergence. But as for the young entrepreneurs, I think, and young students, I must say that every problem is an opportunity. If some people will go bankrupt, there are others who will open their shops. There'll be other opportunities which will also emerge from this. Whether we'll have offices who have 1 lakh people coming to office on sort of a big building, I don't know whether that's going to come back again. We know we are already seeing the emergence of new global alliances and redefining the roles of some of the world institutions like WHO and the UN. And I think this has been long due, and hopefully this will expedite that to happen. Next slide. Yeah, so just few slides on to, I use this opportunity, in fact, to talk about what I like, which is sleep. Next slide. I think there have been so many WhatsApp jokes going around that, we've all thought about on Monday mornings, if I could sleep a little more, and those wishes have all been collectively granted, and I think granted in a bad way, that we had nothing to look forward to, and it's been going on. Just before I understood that there were some research students in the group, and I'll kind of just to scratch their heads also go on to talk a little bit more about science and how I think when it comes to sleep, not a lot of us think about it. We don't feel the need to think about it. How do we define sleep? The first basic questions: how do all organisms sleep? How does our sleep pattern develop after birth? And why do we spend 1/3 of our life sleeping? So these are questions I don't think we have answers to everything about. Sleep medicine in a way is a very recent field. It's not an old field, and we're learning about some of these things. I'll just wanted to run it before. Next slide. So we know that the theories of sleep, we don't know exactly why the evolution has presented this function, whether it is to deal with the wear and tear of the body, whether it was to deal with memory consolidation, or it is an ecological niche theory. We don't know. These are all theories which are not proven beyond doubt. We know they play a role, but this is what we are thinking is to be the role of sleep. Next slide. So, but what we know for sure, it is just not the absence of wakefulness. It is an active process. What we thought is like charging your mobile in a way that you charge your mobile overnight and then you think about it. It's what we thought initially it was a passive process, to now understanding it is an active, it is a complex, highly regulated. There are certain areas of the brain which are just active during sleep, and it is essential to life, and we all do it. Next slide. In a way, we spend 1/3 of our lives sleeping, which is then divided into dreaming or the REM sleep and the non-dreaming sleep on the non-REM sleep. Now, when we dream, our eyes are fluctuating. A rapid eye movement is what was discovered about 50 years back, where we knew when the eyes are fluttering, that's the time we are dreaming. Now, why that is happening, we don't know, but that made our life easier in a way. When we were monitoring sleep, when the eyes were fluttering, we knew that this patient is in REM sleep or a dreaming sleep. When we go into a dreaming sleep, we lose all our muscle tone. We don't, because otherwise all of us will be running around, we will be acting out a dream. So what happens in the REM sleep is our brain is highly active, we are dreaming, but all our muscle tone is lost, and therefore we are just passive. So, and these are episodes, and some people will say, I never dream, or I don't see. It's part of your normal dreaming. We have about 4 to 5 dreaming episodes. Next slide. That also we understand. So this is like we are now understand like sleep is like any other parameter. We measure blood pressure, which varies over age. We also have, what a child will have about a lot of sort of REM sleep and the slow wave sleep, and which diminishes over time. So sleep is divided into different stages. The stage 1 light and stage 2 deeper. The slow wave is the real sleep where the brain activity slows down, and that's the relaxing sleep that we think. And the REM is your dreaming sleep. Vaso is a wake after sleep onset. So this is how a normal sleep evolves, and it evolves over time. And REM is the rapid eye movement, which is the dreaming sleep. REM sleep is the rapid eye movement sleep, which is the dreaming sleep. SWS is the slow wave sleep, or the stage 3 sleep, which is the relaxing sleep. Stage 1 and stage 2 is all transitory. We are still learning as to why nature has made so many different stages. Why don't we just have sleep and waking? It is what we think. Today, if you were to, when you were walking or if you were doing something, and if you see something really interesting or horrifying, and you were to go back home and narrate the whole incident, you'll say, I was going there, I was going to meet him, this was the time. You will remember the details of that event. But think about if you were to try and narrate the same event in about a week's time, you will only remember the most important bit of it, which is, I saw this accident, where you were going, whom were you going to meet, and what time of the day, probably you would forget. So at some point, the brain has zipped the memory. Like I'm sure all of you know what the zipping is, basically get rid of useful components and make sure that you just retain the most important. So we think REM sleep or the dreaming sleep is where this happens, is where the zipping happens. So therefore, dreaming sleep or the REM sleep is thought to be the seat of learning. And kids, when they're born, they have a lot of REM sleep. They're almost 50% of the time, because they have to learn so much. The mammals we understand, which are intelligent, dolphins, some of these which are closer to human beings, have a lot of REM sleep as well. So again, these are things which are emerging. There is a lot of science behind it, and it's all very recent, although sleeping is not recent. Next slide. So this is what a normal sleep looks like. Just to give you a picture of it, this is called hypnogram, which is a pictographic representation of a sleep. Again, the previous graph showed us how it varies according to age, and this is what a normal night. You can see that these are, it is not a unitary phenomena. We vary between stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, constantly. We continue to move from one stage to the other. And we have then some dreaming, shown in black. So this dreaming episodes, and which predominate during the early morning. And if you wake up early morning, you will probably notice the dream that you were in, and that's because you've woken up from your REM sleep versus a normal sleep that you sometimes wake up. Next slide. So we know that as we are modernizing, we're working more night shifts. Most of my talks have been over the years have been about sleep deprivation and how the societies are ignoring sleep. I never knew that there's going to be a pandemic like this, when I'm going to talk about excessive sleepiness, whether the world is going to have another spectrum, which is to have opportunity of sleeping, and that will become a problem. Next slide. So just to think about a few slides as to how, what has happened. We've lost our daily schedule, and if you lost your daily schedule, you don't have a fixed sleep time. You get into that, what is called as twilight phenomena. You never sleep, never awake, always having slow naps, and that's where elderly get into. And that's, I think, a problem. We have to maintain a regular sleep-wake cycle and a schedule, no matter whether, you're going out or not. Especially, I think that's important. Next slide. So loss of physical exertion, and I was amazed that they were not allowing even for morning walks and stuff like that. And I think that is sad, but that's where we went to, which meant that a lot of people who were used to physical exertion could not do it, and never had the opportunity to do it at home. Any loss of any physical work will obviously decrease your chances of getting sleep. Next slide. There's also, people have got used to using a lot of tea and coffee, which is detrimental to sleep, and especially towards the evening. And this is causing coffee and tea have a lot of caffeine, which is counterproductive to sleep. It is something that can disturb your sleep. Next slide. I knew in India that you couldn't get alcohol at least a few weeks back, but now it is freely available. And then the lines there in the initial few days when they stopped the lockdown, I think was evident that alcoholism is a problem. And alcohol has a very strange relationship with sleep. It hastens sleep. One might think, yes, it helps you to sleep well. But what it does is, I told you about the REM sleep, it pushes back the REM sleep, the dreaming sleep, it pushes. And therefore, by the night, when the middle of the night, when the alcohol levels wears off, you have a rebound of REM sleep or dreaming sleep. That's what causes you hangovers. So again, it can be, a habit of it in regular consumption can be a disaster. Next slide. Yeah, and I'm sure all of us are guilty of doing this. Excessive social media, TV, Netflix, and something we could not do earlier. Now, during the lockdown, we're catching up on it, and obviously late in the night, and that's impacting the sleep. Next slide. I think one of the most important things, and that happens not only during this pandemic, and a lot of time people get retired, and we end up seeing a lot of retirees, is that, there's nothing to look forward to. The next day, you don't have anything lined up, and why should you get up and then feel the motivation of getting up? That does impact the mind and sleep very, very, since, that's hard to fix. But I think one must understand it, recognize it, and therefore try and address it. Next slide. Yes, and all of us, I think, experience some degree of anxiety, uncertainty, what the things are going to be. But in some ways that, our ancestors will tell us any bad times have their own, learnings. And if you can gain more strength mentally, physically in this time, you'll be much better to take advantage of what will come, and, rather than getting into a diseased problem and in state in this time. Next slide. So we knew over the years, and therefore that's what the word had always been focusing on, where, we knew that sleep, the shorter sleep duration of say less than 7 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, had increased mortality and different, increased risk of diabetes, heart diseases, a whole lot of things. There have been a lot of stories about the CEOs been, dying, just falling off, and because they were not having enough rest and sleep. But we also know, next slide, that excessive sleeping will have very similar impacts. I think that's, yeah. So long sleep will also impact the mortality. It's a U-shaped curve, So if I were to give you a duration, I'd say 7 to 8 hours. Anything above that or anything less than that actually has a lot of health problems. So yes, although we have, I think, enjoyed sleep, at least in the initial phase of lockdowns and not having to work, but we shouldn't make it a habit and therefore think that this is just good and I'm giving rest to my body. If you get used to it, that will also have problems. So with that, I come to my last slide. Next slide. So overall, I think the COVID situation is rapidly evolving. Things have started to look better, but there are some challenges. Post-pandemic likely to be a new and hopefully new world order. Sleep, as I pointed out, is a very important resource. You must respect the sanctity of sleep and maintain a good sleep hygiene. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Himanshu. It was really lovely slides and nice presentation as concerned with COVID and the sleep relation with that. I hope the participants must have enjoyed, and have received so many messages and in the chat box related to the various questions that they have come up. I think the lecture was a little informative and mostly concerned. As of now, it's going off on fire. So if you could also see, if you would have seen the chat box, and if you feel that some questions are related and could be answered in a very short span of time, Dr. Sapto, can you help them out in a little bit of things, like they've developed a query in their mind related to sleep, basically, that what is rapid eye basically concerned of, and how it can be taken care of, and what is VASO and all. They have discussed in the chat box.
So, okay, I think it's going very fast. It's hard to keep track of it is going before I can even read it. It's going flying off.
That's right.
I think I've given a lot of information on sleep, and that may be not what they fully understood, and I understand that, and sorry for that. I just wanted to tell you about the word of sleep medicine, that where we have come to, and just wanted to expose you to it. And maybe, so WASO is wake after sleep onset. We all have certain periods of wakefulness which we are permitted to have when we sleep. We will never have a period, which will be rare, that you just sleep and you will never sleep in one stage. We will always, it's like a lift. You will go from first floor to second, second to third, third to first, first to second. This is the way nature is, and we are trying to learn why nature has made it like that. What is the role? We've understood a bit about, say, dreaming sleep or the rapid eye movement sleep. We know that people still talk about some of the, Narendra Modi, Indira Gandhi, they can sleep for 3 hours and they can still be fresh. How is that possible? We think, and that some of our yogis and have learned the art of Nidra Yoga. The Nidra Yoga is the art of getting into stage 3 sleep directly. Whether having, normally when you sleep, we go from stage 1 to stage 2. We spend a maximum amount of time in stage 2, which we think is where we want to get to, is stage 3. which is the time or the waiting time to get into stage 3. So if you can develop a skill where you can get into stage 3 is all that you need. So even if you sleep for 2 hours and 3 hours, but you are sleeping both the dreaming sleep as well as the stage 3 sleep, your sleep homeostasis is achieved. This is all you need. Again, very fascinating word of learning and, you know, where we are with this. And I hope with the Ayush initiatives, we will be able to, you know, use a traditional wisdom as to how and then try and buy kind of, you know, with the Western science, marry it with the Western science and learn more about it. How can India overcome the issue of sleep during COVID? Please suggest. I mean, I don't think country is focused on dealing with sleep. The country is more focused on numbers and deaths. I think we'll have to all individually look at our sleep rather than the country is, the numbers are growing. It is a bit worrying sign. I think the lockdown and the migration is really a little, and had the migration happened before the lockdown, I think things would have been different. Just the strategy.
One of the question is raised by one of our institute professor only, Dr. Sir, how to differentiate ILI and SARI symptoms?
How to differentiate?
The ILI and SARI symptoms.
I'm not sure what they mean by ILI, but maybe I think what they want is the SARS symptoms, or so very difficult to say. It is very much like influenza. It's like any other influenza that you will feel, you will have. Almost based on the symptoms, it is hard to say you will have the same cough, some nasal block, sometime myalgia, and very mild symptoms. So symptomatically, who has an, we've had cases here who had scratchy throat, you know, just, and nurses who came to nursing homes where people and elderly were there, and they just said, and later when they tested, they were found to be positive, and that had a major catastrophe, and then a lot of patients died in that nursing home. So the question was, what is there for the implication and the role of that nurse, whether that nurse could be held criminally liable for those deaths. But on the other hand, she said, I've never had any symptoms, only a scratchy throat. So how could I have reported sick? So it is what we know, it's flu-like symptoms in sort of any degree of severity.
So, Doctor, one more we can take up.
Sorry?
That one last question we can take up as it is in a, you can say, concern of everyone entire the globe. What is the remedy that is a later cost, but has we developed, has the word across any country or anywhere we have come across with you can say sort of vaccine of this COVID-19?
So there are about 50-60 companies which are doing the vaccine work. There is a company. There is Informa company which just released results. So vaccine production, we know, is a very slow process. It has to go through phases, you know, animals, then healthy volunteers, then patients, and then safety. There was some work which was done in fact, a professor who was here in this hospital who went on to the Oxford, and you've heard about the Oxford. They had done a lot of work on SARS, and it could not come into the production. So they've used pretty much the same material to come up with the vaccine. I think by the year end, we will probably have some degree of vaccine. That's again sort of, nobody can be certain about it. But what is looking with the kind of efforts being put globally around it, and it's a big race. Ultimately, there's a lot of money to be made. There is, people are desperate to live, and there is, when you have that degree of desperation, I think something is likely to emerge.
So, like, can you suggest some of the, you can say, remedies that, like, you can say how to overcome, whether through physical activities or like during the lockdown? It's a very great question that if we are back into our homes and we don't go anywhere.
I think we know the importance of social distancing, hand hygiene, masks, and, you know, getting ourselves tested with the mildest symptoms. So those are things, and I would say yoga. If there's one thing that I would do, you know, for an Indian audience, if there's one thing and one magical remedy that I want to give is yoga, I would say. And interesting that Ayush is running 4 major trials, the Department of Ayush, immunomodulation on the 4 known herbs around immune modulation. And they've spoken to me also whether they want to do and run it in Australia as well. So Indian Council of Medical Research through Ayush is going to run some of those as well. So hopefully we'll have some more answers in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. for your kind cooperation and your valuable time. And
My
we'll
pleasure.
definitely be in touch with you, and definitely we hope that we'll be coming up with some more queries through mail to you. And if there is not any issue, can we share this? The participants are asking the slide to be shared on the groups.
No problem. No problem. You can share it.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much, Dr. I
No
hope
worries. Thank you.
it was very informative and everybody has blessed and was very writing the comments is very thankful, and you can say the event was well organized. I thank my participants as well as everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Manisha. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
having me. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. Over to Hanumant Rao, our coordinator team, and Ms. Shivani Dubey, who is going to ask our next expert, you can say, about the session that has to begin. Thank you. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Our next presenter is Laxman Yadav. Mr. Laxman is a senior software engineer with more than 8 years of experience in executing full life cycle development projects in Commeasure Solutions, India Pvt Ltd. After completing his graduation at BCA and master degree of MCA, he has managed application development projects such as Stackle, Redigion, Social Marketing Partners, Kickbacks, Working Group Link, Urban Dashboard, Subita, Axwell, and Inboxer. He has also created a software design process to translate business requirements into technical design documents, resulting in improved quality control and output that was right the first time. His expertise in using technology such as Ruby on Rails, Sintra, MySQL, Puma, Elasticsearch, Passenger, REST, and so React, and Python. I request to sir, please start his presentation.
Your voice is not audible. Okay, yeah.
I'm audible now?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So, thank you so much, sir, for having me here. It's a proud moment for me. You know, I was a student of JSS, and I really feel proud to be here. And I'm really thankful for principals, management, faculties, and at the last, not the least, the Vikas Singhal, sir, who just asked me to be here and present my experience and expertise that I'm just following day by day to share my views with the others software developers. So, sir, do you have my presentation or I have to?
You can share Ramji if you want, because you will be having any update if you have done. So I thought not to download it.
So you can enable me sharing for me.
Okay, 1 second. One second. Just give me a moment so that I can download, because I have stopped sharing for all the participants, I believe.
Okay, okay.
That's been done by the Zoom settings. So I need to download it and just share it. Just give me 2 minutes. Meanwhile, you can just have a talk with the participants so that about yourself, about your journey from JSS, and like your outcomes of it, like what really fits into the technology, what you have really developed with. Just give me 2 minutes in between.
Hello, everyone. My name is Laxman Yadav. I completed my MCA from JSS in 2013. And I started working with Ruby on Rails because Ruby is my primary language and I'm working with Ruby on Rails. Along with, I have worked with many other technologies like Go, Python, and others frameworks of the subsequent languages. In around 8 years of experience, I have created a lot of applications to solve end user problems. So right now, I'm working as a module lead in Commeasure Solutions India Private Limited. So their brand name is Reddo. They have just kind of Oyo. That is an application to share their hotels inventories in Southeast Asia. So I'm managing the payment module for them. So my day-to-day activity involved to integrate development, deployment, um, to just communicate with payment channels and payment partners. So we have right now more than 20 payment gateways and 30 payment channels that we are working with. So it's really nice and challenging thing that we are working. So I just love to do my open source contribution when I have time, and when I face some challenges or find something new that uh, I found, just do some proof of concept over it. So I just create into the blog post and share with the other members. So I generally write the technical stuff that I'm working with. So my voice is audible, sir?
Your voice is audible, and the message which you have sent, that file is not downloadable. Can you send me again that file, sir?
Okay, just allow me a minute, sir.
Yeah.
So before I start with the presentation, I would like to share, my story, that how I just come to blog writing stuffs, because my my hobby, and I'm a developer by profession, but I love to teach, and I love to explain things when I have something new and learn something new. So when I was in college, so and I was the um, team member of student society optimist over there, and I got a chance to do the e-publicity for our technofest delicon. So at that time I faced something, and just heard the word first time. I just listened the word for the blog and try to just learn this up, and just started contributing over blogs from the, so it's around more than 8 or 9 years that I'm writing with the blogs. So sir, did you got my presentation? Hope everyone can see the presentation.
Yeah, now it's visible. I hope everybody is visible with that. You can start with it, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so well, I'm a developer by profession, so I will try to just do this presentation as interesting as I can. So please be with me so that we can just move ahead. So sir, please move to the next slide. So let me brief about today's agenda, agenda, what we are going to discuss. So before, first of all, we will start with what is blog and the history of blog and why anyone can start blogging. So starting with the blog post, exactly what is the blog post, and some best practices or some helps that we how we can write a good blog post. And after that, when we have everything, so we will need to just think of how we start blogging. And the main thing after that, we just know everything about blog and blog posting. So the main thing that comes in the mind, that where we have to write. So I will guide you some of platforms to you can just go around it, and I will demonstrate in the last of this presentation, so that how you can create your blog and blog post. So please move to the next one. Okay. So basically, blog is just like an website. If you can see in any blog post, there is a blog, there is a website and having some pages and some information in it. So it's generally an online diary or general kind of stuff, including some kind of pictures, some videos, animations that anyone can share their views. Suppose I'm a professor or I'm a developer and I'm facing some issue that I have some topics that I need to explain to anyone. So without going to online classes and anything, if I have ability to write something in a very effective way, so that any learner, any audience can just read that blog and understand the purpose of the blog posting and what I'm trying to explain to them. So this is basically the blog posting and how generally bloggers do. Okay. So one more thing that I want to tell you, that every website is not a blog, but blog is a website. So you can say that blog is a part of website. So in today's scenario, every company is that dealing with, every enterprise are dealing with software and with end customers, they will follow a kind of blog, so that they can post their day-to-day activity or some kind of awareness on the blog. Please move to the next slide. Okay, so let's briefly discuss about how blogs comes to the picture, and if there was a website, then why there will a need to just invent the blogs. So basically, blog is nothing like a new technologies or something. It's a way of writing and sharing their views to the end customers and audience. Okay, so in 1994, Justin Hall was a college student who created his first online diary to share his day-to-day activity. The name was links.net. This was the first uh, blog was created by Justin Hall in 1994. So in 1997, an American blogger, John Berger, he created his online journal, and the name Weblog was introduced in 1997. In 1998, one news channels just come to the picture, and they just share their online journals and news over this website and online feed. So officially the weblogs come into the picture. But if you can see, in 1999, there was a revolutionary year for blog and bloggings. So in this year, the weblog comes sorted into blogs, and the first online platform comes in the picture. The name was Blogger, and it's created by Paralabs in 1999. And later on, it acquires by Google, and we know that right now Blogger is a product of Google, so that we can just go and create our blog post. So please move to the next. Okay. Now here's the question. Suppose I know what exactly the blog is, and I know I have to write. But as a normal person, I may be anyone. I can be a developer. I can be teacher. I can be a scientist. I can be a professor. So one very common things comes into the mind that what exactly and why we should start blogging. So uh, we can just have a set of regions for it. So this first one is you can treat your blogs as an online diary. We have all connected today, connected with the social medias and all, and we post their day-to-day activity with them. So you can create your online diary. You can treat your blogs as online diary. And if I'm a student and learner, and I want to express my thing and I'm not able to express in audience, so it is very good platform to just improve your writing skills and you know uh, explaining your views in a very general, like an easy way. Okay. And if you are an company enterprise, or maybe you're an event hosting company and you want to attract your audience, so this is the really good platform that you write your blogs, posting day to day, right? And attract your audience. In Zelicon, what we do in the college time, we just write our day-to-day updates on blogs and just start posting with the other college student and online social media, so that everyone get connected to it. So the next thing is the very beneficial is for blogging. If if anyone is starting their blogging and start doing the blog post, he will just look in last time that networking, social networking, and the people will be interacting with him or her very soon. So right now you can see we are all connected and it's an era of internet. So it is very important to stay connected, um, uh, stay updated. So now come to the fame and popularity. This is a very big point right now. In today's era, you can have, you can learn anyhow and find something that some person that is a very young age and making millions and billions of dollars by making their blog post. Yes, you can just create your own money by your blog post as well. But it's depend on the blog and it's depend on the audience of your blog. Okay. So if I'm a company and I'm owning the company and I have a brand, I have to promote this one. So I can use a blogging to promote my brand as well. So sir, please go to the next. Okay. So if I am owning an NGO, or if I have some useful thoughts and I want to share with someone and want to create some awareness, yes, you can just I can use the blogging and start doing the awareness in the people. And sometimes it's come to the self promotion as well. Suppose I'm a freelancer and I'm doing any freelance work, so blog posting will be very useful for me to do the self promotions. Now, the next point is very related to me as a developer, and we have so right now we are working in the open source community. So and we have a lot of problem while we are developing something and while we are working. So if I face some problem, I just convert it to solution and just try to make the blog posting and share to the other audience and other developers. They can get help. So maybe I have learned something that any student can relate, or some beginners can go to getting started of it. So this is a very good platform to start helping us. This is a really good platform also to share your story as well. And last but not the least, yes, you can make a good money by creating your blog posts. So please move to the next. Okay. After blog, generally we generally in day-to-day life we heard about blog and blog post. What exactly the difference is? See, a blog is basically a website or place where we can just go and write. So the part of the article that we are writing, that part is called a blog post. So is as like a chapter in a book, or maybe a page in a website. So it generally consists of your infographic content, photos, videos, and everything. So basically a blog post having headlines, useful sub headlines, your body of content body of that post. And it's really good to have internal and external links, that if you are getting some references from any external sources or any other media, so it is really good to have internal and external links over there. One more thing that before writing a blog post, we generally keeps into the mind that we need to maintain our meta description tags. What is meta description tag? When we write a blog post, we need to add some kind of label or some kind of some kind of tags to it. So all the search engine like Google, Yahoo, and everyone just go to their blog site or post, and just scan and crawl their those meta tags. Suppose I'm writing a blog having uh, a title name, just how to get started with the blogs. So some my meta tags will be getting started the blogs, or blog starting, something like this. It's relevant to your blog so that it can reach to actual target audience easily. So please, sir, please move to the next. Okay, so we have idea about what is the blog post. So how to write an awesome blog post? Suppose I have everything, and I have a topic and everything. I just try to write a blog. So before writing an awesome blog, we have to keep things in mind that I know. So first thing that we need to just select a useful and trending topic. Suppose if you write few things on the COVID-19, if you have any idea about the COVID-19, so COVID-19 is trending in today's life. So you have to choose your topics very carefully and very smartly, that it's very helpful for your audience. So before writing your content, start thinking about the target audience for whom you are writing the blog post. If I am a developer and I'm writing blogs for developers, so I have things in mind that I'm writing blog for uh, developers. So as like if you are a professor or a research scholar and you are writing something, depending on your target audience, you have to think about your um, target audience. You have to think about your content, and you have to very sir, please move to the next. Yes. So you have to always think about reader's perspective. Suppose I'm writing a blog, so at writing at the time of the writing, I should very careful about how readers will interact with with my blog. Will he will able to understand my blog, or I'm writing some very sophisticated language? So it is good to have you have to use very easy and understandable languages. So again, there is a next thing is to manage your tags very carefully, so that it can reach to maximum audience. And in today's life, we all have connected to the social media. So if you want that your blog post reach to the maximum audience, so you need to configure social media share on your blog post, so that anyone can go and share with their friends and family and everyone. Okay. And the last one thing, suppose I have written a blog and this is really awesome blog and everything is good, but if I'm not able to promote or share with the friends, the idea of blogging is failed, right? So we have to promote our blogs by social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and anyway. So please move to the next, please. Okay. Now here's the question: how to start blogging? So suppose I'm pretty much new to blog and blogging. So if I have idea that I don't have any idea how to start blogging. So here are a few tips that you can just go ahead with it. So first thing that you have to choose a perfect name for your blog. So suppose you are uh, in case of, it's just the same as like you creating your domains, you're creating your website and you are choosing a topic for a website. So choosing a name for a blog is something like that. And after that, you have to choose a right platform. You can choose in various, there are hundreds and thousands of platforms that you can choose out. And after that, if you want that you have a custom domain for your blog post, yes, you can do it. Okay. Okay. After that, if you want that you need your own blog and your own hosting, then you need to just pick your hosting account and just host your blog over there. Okay. And if you want your blog looks attractive and very customized, you need to just think of layout and template and just choose the theme as your wish. And after that, you can write your content, publish, and just promote. This is how blogging works. Okay, so please move to next. Okay, so here is the main question, that how and where to write blogs. I have everything. I have the drafts on papers and document, and I'm really pretty much confused that in today's life we have a lot of frameworks, a lot of platforms, that how I choose amongst them. So I have few tips for that. Please, sir, please move to the next. Okay, so Blogger was the first tool, just come to the picture in early 1999. So when it's it's invented, so it will puts blogging in mainstream. So if you want to use Blogger as your blogging platform, yes, you can use it. What you have is, you will have only uh, the Google account. If you have a Google account, it means if you have a Gmail, yes, you can own your Blogger account. Okay, it's free and easy to use. Still, if you don't have any programming experience and everything, so you can just go configure your blog and start writing your blogs over there. And one very good advantage of Blogger is you will have a secure and reliable platform of Google's. Okay, and one thing that is a very good thing in this Blogger, that you can set your custom domain as well. Okay, so please move to the next. Okay, so as this online tool, so it will have a limited scope and limited features. So let's discuss a few cons, disadvantages of using Blogger. So there are limited blogging tools available. If you want to add new features, you cannot. If Blogger provide for you, then you can use, otherwise not. Okay, there are limited design template that you can use for it. And the major disadvantage of using a Blogger is, if Google thinks that you are you are not following the rules and policies with the Google, they can suspend your account immediately without any notice. So please move to next. So Tumblr, I have just Tumblr. I just choose this to just present over here, because Tumblr is it's kind of different from normal blogging. It's a micro blogging. So what is the term micro blogging is? Suppose you want to share a short very short description or short blogs, and you want to add some kind of picture, videos, and want to share with the social medias, and you have a lot of functionality. You can just follow other blog post bloggers and all. So suppose it's just like Twitter. You can just treat like as a Twitter. Okay. So what are the disadvantages of using? Yes. What are the disadvantages of using Tumblr? Is again same. You have a limited features and limited templates that you can choose upon. So please move to next. Okay. So Medium just comes launch in 2012 and gain popularity. And today, in today's life, it's more popular blog posting platform that people are using it. But where you cannot use your custom domain with Medium. It will provide your URL for it, just like your social medias. There will be a link for your profile. Okay, if you have less a technical skill and you don't know how to write codes and everything, you can just set up your blogs by using Medium and just start blogging it, and it's absolutely free. So sir, please move to the next. Okay, so along with all the online platforms, Mediums also has some disadvantages. So some of I can discuss with you. The first one thing, you cannot use your custom domain for it. The Medium provided for you. Okay, you cannot change that. And one biggest problem is that Medium owns your audience. If you have losing your blog means you are losing your audience. One more thing, that if you want to post your ads or any kind of advertisement over Medium, you cannot do it because Medium has rights for it. They don't provide you to write them. Please move to the next slide, please, sir. Okay. In 2013, when WordPress comes to the picture, it was a really revolutionary change in the bloggings. So people were start creating their website and their blog posting. So WordPress is more popular in bloggings. So what I have provided few set of a few list of CMS provider that WordPress.com, WordPress.org. HostGator is basically provide you the hosting for it. So if you want to host your website, you can just create your account, purchase the domain, purchase the hosting, and you will host your WordPress website and blog there. One more thing that is pretty much different from all these, that is Wix.com is a kind of a website builder, and this is really much popular in nowadays. So if you can think, if you have a little bit idea of changing the layout and everything, you can just go and or maybe you can hire a developer just to create your blogs for your own. This all platforms will create your blogs for own. Previously we were discussing about the online platforms that we can go and just use those platforms to writing blogs, but after using CMS providers, we will have our whole control on our audience, our post, and that post will lie with us. Okay, so please move to the next. Okay, so this is my favorite one that I'm just working with. So this is a new generation blog. If you are a programmer and you have idea about how to program, so it's not about the typical programming. It's really different from typical programming. So nowadays, Markdown is getting much popularity than writing a traditional blog. So Markdown is basically a kind of language, you can say. There will be a text file. The the extension will be MD or Markdown. You have to write in certain format, and the set of frameworks will compile those Markdown and created there's a page for you. You have to write only the Markdown. So basically, I use the frameworks to my personal blogging is my favorite is Jekyll. Basically, it's a Ruby and Sinatra based framework. And recently, I have just worked with Hugo. Basically, this is the world fastest framework, and just work with the Python Jupyter to create your blogs with the help of Markdowns. And the next thing, not the next platform that is taking much popularity nowadays, because today in today's scenario we have a lot of JavaScript framework. So Hexo is a NPM based framework that provide you the fast and reliable blogs generations. Okay, this is all about the blog and blog creation and how you choose your blog. So it is a benefit. It's up to you that how and which platform will suit for you. So it is for you. Just try and just think of it and choose the right platform for you. One more thing that we are, having using this right now. So GitHub and GitLab, Bitbucket, such kind of um, a version control website that provide a free website hosting. Suppose I have a GitHub account, suppose Ram Lakshman. So ramlakshman.github.io, it will be a free domain for me, and I can host a free website and host free blog posting over there. But one disadvantage will be there, that your blogs will be on the public network, means anyone can just read your blogs, means they can just clone or download your whole code of your the blogs. Okay, so please move to the next slide. Okay, so right now we will just start with the demo. Sir, how will do the demonstration, as I am not able to share my screen? Because sir. Okay, so if you have any question regarding this, regarding blog post, or if you have any confusion, please feel free to ask. I will try my best to answer as much as I can. Because sir. I'm audible, sir?
Well, nice presentation, Ram.
Thank you so much, sir.
There are a lot of questions that has come up to us.
Okay.
First of all, they have asked it, what can be the length, you can say, of the blogs, or what is the, you can say, security aspects. Like there are so many, you can say, fake blogs, or you can say that has been reporting to the, you can say, concerned authorities about the blog. So how can we take care of all those issues?
Well, regarding this one, sir, the first thing that you need to be very honest with. You don't have to copy anyone. The first thing, if you have any things that just take the references, and if you are taking the references, just provide the reference link for it, so that it's just like your research journals. When you are writing your journals and taking references from others, so you generally ask for the permission. So in blog posting, generally we do provide the external links and references for that.
Okay. So one question is coming up, that how to measure video blogging effectiveness. Is there any suggestion from your side?
See, if you want to just for effectiveness, there is a lot of platforms that you can use your Google Analytics and other analytics tool that you can collect the feedback and with your audience, so that you can understand that this content is useful for user or not.
Okay. One of the questions are raised by one of the participants, Mr. Ram, that is there any specific programming language and how to create that? So I think we can give that answer, that we definitely will be moving up with the hands-on session.
I want to answer that question because there is no specific language. You can write blogs in any language.
Okay. So there's any programming language required? I think
it's not limited to any programming language. And if you have any little bit idea about the languages, I will just show you the latest and new generations for writing blogs for programmers that I've showed you the Markdown. This is the really they're really big and very easy to understand and very easy to write.
Okay, so definitely we'll be moving up with the hands-on session, I believe, in the part 2 from your side. So it will be more clear to them that how to take you can say blogs into the, you can say, environment, or into the, you can say to how it can be reachable to everyone, or how to create with simple steps. That all we are taking care in part 2, I believe.
Okay, we'll do that.
Is there any further questions that you can think about, that can be into the mind of as of now into the participants, so that before ending up with this session for the next you can say before the part 2 begins from your side, regarding your this blogging effectiveness.
Okay.
The,
So I just want to share one thing that if you are trying to use, if you are willing to use your online platforms that as like Blogger or Tumblr or
okay.
Medium, such kind of thing, you just go around it and try to just learn some, at least you will create, you should have created one account for it. You need to sign up in Medium, you need to sign with the Gmail account. You should have, this is the mandate for it. And the later on we will just move with a little bit idea about the WordPress, how we can just change the layout and everything. And the main interesting part that I want to show that about the markdown and how we create blogs with the help of markdown, a little bit changes in the layout and the HTML, CSS. There are a lot of open source frameworks that we can use and just create our blogs and blog site in a fraction of seconds.
Yeah, definitely. It is giving a quite a good, you can say, range of queries that they have been raising. But what my consideration into my mind, what is clicking from the, you can say, questions that are being raised by the participants is that today's being into the technology market, and some maximum of participants that are attached to us today is are from faculty, fraternity are there, and research scholars, and you can say from the industry people also we have, and some of them are from abroad also we have participants. But still I feel, I'm not claiming that, or I'm not, nobody should take it in a otherwise sense, but my concern is, Ramki, if we can give them a hands-on of a sort of thing in part 2, where we can start even from creating the user ID, and you can say that how to build a platform from scratch. So it will definitely be helpful to everyone, so that they can start creating at least with simple steps, and start writing it in at their end about their own best journey, about their particular, you can say, motivation factors, whatsoever general type of, because they have a sort of thing that should we include a technical blog, should we write a research blog, should we have an educational blog, what type of a creation should we do, and how to market it, how to become familiar, how to reach to the maximum people. That all categories are there in the mind of the participants, I believe.
Okay, so I will try, in the next session, I will try to just, more interesting facts and figures, and will demonstrate how to create blogs and how to share with anyone. And I will make, the next session as much, interesting as I can.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Ram, for this session. I hope we have taken a lot of time today, and I'm really thankful from your side that in spite of having busy in your entire schedule, as I will share with all the participants and with my entire professors are there, my management, my respective principal sir is also there, and I would share this one line for you from your side, like being in 24/7 time available for your company. You have spared so much of time for us that I'm really thankful from the bottom of my heart, and I cannot really give words for that. Really, I'm thankful, because you are into a type of a functionality where you have to be available 24/7. You are available all night also if any call is there from your seniors, and you are such a helpful person from the day you entered into our organization, into our college, and you passed out from here, and since then you have been helping us, our alumni, our students, and even now you are online to us. It's really a great thing, and really we are blessed to have you such type of students, and we really keep a heavy weight on such type of students from JSS Academy of Technical Education, Noida. I hope Principal Sir and every management and all the professors, all the faculties are really blessed to have such type of students that have come out from us, from under us, and if you still remember that how we used to be there with you for your 3 years tenure with us. Thank you, Mr. Ram, for all. Definitely we'll get back to you again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the session. Thank you. Over to our coordinators to end up with the session and the information that you want to float, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. After this, we will send questionnaire related to our today's presentation to all the participants. So kindly fill that and send to us back. Tomorrow, we have 2 more experts, Dr. Latika Singh and Mr. Lokendra Singh. All participants have to be connected on same link as today's link. So thank you everyone once again. We will meet tomorrow at same time at same place.
So at the end, from my side, I thank once again our respected principal sir. Thank you so much, sir. As I could see that he was available all throughout the event, and being such a busy person and like has given so much of time to all of us. We are blessed with his blessings, and you can say I'm really thankful for his entire support. And I also thank my Dean Academics, Dr. Rajit sir, our registrar sir, and you can say all the professors. Professor Sampath is there, who is an active participant of the active professor from the academy, who is really handling for NBA accreditations and everything, most important portfolios. I really thank my entire management team from the, you can say, dignitaries, our all the presenters and everyone. Thank you so much. And I also thank my participants who cordially have taken the session in a very nice way and were very, you can say, enthusiastic in floating the questions. And same way I feel that I'll be available, and they same will be available to us in the tomorrow session. Thank you so much. So we are winding up the session. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Have a nice day. Stay blessed and stay safe. Thank you.